I first started noticing Johnny Cash back in, it had to have been the 50s. I first started noticing Johnny Cash back in, it had to have been the 50s maybe. He had this record out, Hey Porter, I think was the first one I remember hearing of his, and then continues maybe. I was a great fan of his, not only for his music, but for his attitude. Continued to be a disc jockey for several years after that, and so I continued playing Johnny Cash as long as I could, because I was a huge.
What if I told you that one of country music's biggest secrets has been hiding in plain sight for over 60 years? What if the most famous friendship in Nashville had stories that have never been told until now? At 91 years old, Willie Nelson has finally decided to open his heart and share the deepest, most personal memories about his legendary friend Johnny Cash. And what he reveals will change everything you thought you knew about the Man in Black Dot. For decades, fans have wondered about the real story behind these two giants of country music. They've seen the performances together, heard the songs they made, and watched them laugh on stage. But nobody knew what happened when the cameras stopped rolling and the crowds went home. Nobody knew about the late-night conversations, the struggles they shared, or the moments that defined their incredible bond. Until now, Willie Nelson has kept these stories locked away for years, waiting for the right time to share them. And that time has finally come. What he's revealing about Johnny Cash will make you see both of these legends in a completely new light. This isn't just about music. This is about friendship, loyalty, heartbreak, and the kind of brotherhood that only comes along once in a lifetime. The story begins in the 1950s, when Willie Nelson was just a young DJ working at small radio stations across Texas. He wasn't famous yet. He was just a guy who loved music, spinning records, and trying to make it in the tough world of country music. But even then, Willie had incredible taste. He could hear something special in a song that others might miss, and one day he heard a voice that would change his life forever. It was Johnny Cash singing Hey Porter, and Willie knew immediately that he was listening to something extraordinary. This wasn't just another country singer trying to make it big. This was an artist who had something real to say, something that came from deep inside his soul. Willie started playing Johnny's songs on the radio every chance he got. He became one of Johnny's biggest fans long before they ever met. Willie remembers those early days with perfect clarity. He would sit in that tiny radio booth, playing Johnny Cash records over and over again, amazed by the power and honesty in that voice. Even though Johnny was already becoming famous and Willie was still struggling to make his own mark, Willie never felt jealous. Instead, he felt inspired. Here was proof that real, honest music could touch people's hearts and change lives. But Willie had no idea that fate was already working to bring them together. Nashville in the 1960s was like a small town where all the musicians knew each other. It was a place where dreams came true and hearts got broken, sometimes on the same night. And it was in this magical, chaotic world that Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash would finally meet face-to-face. The meeting didn't happen at some fancy music industry party or on a big stage in front of thousands of fans. It happened in a small, dimly lit bar in Nashville, where young musicians would gather to share songs and stories. It was the kind of place where music wasn't about making money or getting famous. It was about connecting with other people who understood what it felt like to have music running through your veins. Willie was sitting at the bar, probably nursing a beer and thinking about his next song, when Johnny walked in. Even in that dark room, Johnny had a presence that you couldn't ignore. He wasn't trying to be the center of attention, but somehow he naturally became it. Willie watched as Johnny made his way through the crowd, shaking hands and saying hello to people he knew. When Johnny finally made it over to where Willie was sitting, something magical happened. They started talking, and it was like they had been friends their whole lives. They talked about music, of course, but they also talked about life, about growing up poor, about the struggles of trying to make it in Nashville, and about the weight of carrying other people's dreams on their shoulders. Willie was amazed by how down-to-earth Johnny was. Here was this guy who was already a star, who had hit songs on the radio and fans screaming his name, but he was just as real and honest as anyone Willie had ever met. Johnny didn't put on airs or act like he was better than anyone else. He was just Johnny, a guy from Arkansas who happened to have one of the most distinctive voices in country music. That first conversation lasted for hours. They talked until the bar was ready to close, and even then, they didn't want to stop. They had found something rare and precious, a genuine connection with another person who truly understood what it meant to live for music. By the time they said goodbye that night, both men knew that this was the beginning of something special. Over the next few months, Willie and Johnny started spending more and more time together. They would meet up whenever they were both in Nashville, sharing songs they were working on and talking about their dreams for the future. Willie was still trying to establish himself as a songwriter and performer, while Johnny was dealing with the pressures of fame, and success. But despite their different situations, they found comfort in each other's company. What made their friendship so special was how honest they could be with each other. In the competitive world of country music, it wasn't always easy to find someone you could trust completely, but Willie and Johnny had that kind of trust from the very beginning. They could share their fears, their insecurities, and their wildest dreams without worrying about being judged or betrayed. Willie remembers one particular night when they were sitting in Johnny's hotel room, just the two of them with their guitars. Johnny had been going through a rough patch, struggling with some personal demons that he rarely talked about in public. But that night, he opened up to Willie in a way that showed just how deep their friendship had become. Johnny talked about the pressure of being famous, about how hard it was to live up to everyone's expectations all the time. He talked about feeling lonely, even when he was surrounded by crowds of people. And he talked about his fears that maybe he wasn't as good as everyone thought he was, that maybe someday people would figure out that he was just a regular guy who got lucky. Willie listened without judging, the way only a true friend can. He understood what Johnny was going through because he had his own struggles and doubts. But what Willie saw in Johnny that night was something that Johnny couldn't see in himself, a man with incredible strength, talent, and heart. Willie told Johnny that his music mattered, that it was changing people's lives, and that he had a responsibility to keep going even when things got tough. That conversation became a turning point in their friendship. From that night on, they weren't just friends who liked to play music together. They were brothers who would always be there for each other, no matter what life threw at them. And life would throw plenty at both of them in the years to come. As both men's careers continued to grow, they found ways to support each other professionally as well as personally. Willie would often appear on Johnny's television show, bringing his unique style and laid-back personality to Johnny's more structured format. These appearances weren't just good television. They were glimpses into a real friendship that viewers could feel through their TV screens. When they performed together, something magical happened. Johnny's deep, powerful voice would blend with Willie's more relaxed, conversational style in ways that shouldn't have worked but absolutely did. They brought out the best in each other musically, with Johnny helping Willie find more power and emotion in his delivery, while Willie helped Johnny loosen up and find more freedom in his expression. But their most famous collaboration came in 1985 when they joined forces with Waylon Jennings and Chris Christopherson to form the Highwaymen. This wasn't just another country music supergroup thrown together by record executives. This was four friends who genuinely enjoyed making music together and had stories to tell that were bigger than any one of them could tell alone. The Highwaymen represented everything that Willie and Johnny believed about music. It was honest, it was real, and it came from the heart. Their songs told stories about outlaws and rebels, about men who lived life on their own terms and paid the price for their choices. But more than anything, their music was about friendship and brotherhood, about standing by the people you care about no matter what. Willie embers the recording sessions for the Highwaymen albums as some of the happiest times of his life. Here he was, making music with three of his best friends, all of them at the top of their game, and all of them completely committed to creating something special. There was no ego, no competition, just four guys who loved music and loved each other. The success of the Highwaymen proved that their friendship wasn't just personal, it was professional gold as well. Their concerts sold out everywhere they went, and fans couldn't get enough of seeing these four legends together on one stage. But for Willie and Johnny, the real reward wasn't the money or the fame. It was the chance to share their music and their friendship with the world. However, success couldn't protect them from life's challenges. Johnny began struggling with addiction, a battle that would define much of his later career and personal life. Willie watched his friend go through incredibly difficult times when it seemed like Johnny might not make it through, but Willie never gave up on him, never stopped believing in him, and never stopped being there when Johnny needed him. Willie remembers getting phone calls from Johnny in the middle of the night, calls where Johnny sounded lost and scared and unsure if he could keep going. These weren't calls from a famous country music star. They were calls from a friend who was hurting and needed someone to listen. Willie always took those calls, no matter what time it was or what he was doing. That's what friends do. During Johnny's darkest periods, Willie would often fly to wherever Johnny was, just to spend time with him and remind him that he wasn't alone. They would sit together for hours, sometimes talking, sometimes just playing music quietly. Willie knew that he couldn't fix Johnny's problems, but he could be present, and sometimes that was enough. What Willie admired most about Johnny during these difficult times was that he never completely gave up. No matter how bad things got, Johnny would always find a way to pull himself back up and keep fighting. He would go to rehab, get clean, and pour his experiences into his music in ways that made his songs even more powerful and meaningful. Willie saw firsthand how Johnny's struggles made his music more authentic and emotionally resonant. Songs like Hurt, which Johnny recorded near the end of his life, came from a place of such deep pain and redemption that they could make grown men cry. Willie knew that Johnny's ability to transform his pain into art was part of what made him such an extraordinary artist. But Johnny wasn't just taking from their friendship during his difficult times. He was giving back too. When Willie had his own challenges, Johnny was always there to offer support and encouragement. Willie was dealing with his own demons, his own struggles with the music business, and his own personal problems. Johnny understood what Willie was going through because they had walked similar paths. Their friendship wasn't always easy. Both men were strong personalities with their own ways of doing things. They had disagreements and arguments like any friends do. But what made their friendship special was that they never let those disagreements destroy what they had built together. They would fight and then make up, usually over a bottle of whiskey and a couple of guitars. Willie recalls one particular fight they had over a song they were working on. Both men had strong opinions about how it should go, and neither was willing to back down. The argument got heated, with both of them saying things they probably shouldn't have said. Finally, Johnny stormed out of the studio, leaving Willie sitting there wondering if he had just lost one of his best friends, but the next day, Johnny called Willie and apologized. He said that the song wasn't worth fighting over, but their friendship was worth everything. They met up that afternoon and not only finished the song, but made it better than either of them had originally imagined. That's when Willie knew that their friendship was strong enough to survive anything. As the years went by, Willie and Johnny's friendship deepened and matured. They became more than just friends. They became family. They celebrated each other's successes, supported each other through failures, and were always there for the important moments in each other's lives. When Johnny got married, Willie was there. When Willie had problems with the IRS, Johnny offered to help. The music industry changed dramatically during their careers, but Willie and Johnny remained constant in each other's lives. They watched young artists come and go, they saw trends change and evolve, but their friendship remained solid and unchanging. In a business known for its fickleness and betrayal, they had found something real and lasting. Willie often thinks about what made their friendship so special and so enduring. Part of it was their shared love of music, but it was more than that. They both came from similar backgrounds, growing up poor in the South, and using music as their way out of difficult circumstances. They both understood what it meant to struggle, to dream, and to work incredibly hard for everything they achieved. But more than their similarities, it was their differences that made their friendship work. Johnny was more serious and intense, while Willie was more laid back and easygoing. Johnny was the tortured artist, while Willie was the wise philosopher. Together, they balanced each other out and brought out the best in each other. When Johnny passed away in 2003, Willie felt like he had lost a part of himself. The music world mourned the loss of a legend, but Willie mourned the loss of his brother. For months afterward, Willie would pick up the phone to call Johnny before remembering that his friend was gone. The silence where Johnny's voice used to be was almost unbearable. But Willie didn't let grief consume him. Instead, he chose to honor Johnny's memory by continuing to make music and by sharing the stories of their friendship with the world. He realized that the best way to keep Johnny's spirit alive was to talk about the man behind the legend, to share the Johnny Cash that only his closest friends knew. Now, at 91 years old, Willie has decided that it's time to tell the complete story. He's ready to share the memories that he's kept private for so long. The stories that show Johnny Cash not just as a music legend, but as a loyal friend, a flawed human being, and a man who used his pain to create beauty. Willie wants people to know that Johnny was much more than his public image. Yes, he was the man in black, the rebel, the outlaw who sang about sin and redemption. But he was also a man who cared deeply about his friends, who worried about disappointing people, and who worked harder than anyone Willie ever knew to be the best version of himself. The stories Willie is sharing now paint a picture of a friendship that was built on mutual respect, genuine affection, and shared experiences that only they could understand. They show two men who found in each other something that they couldn't find anywhere else: complete acceptance and understanding. Willie's memories of Johnny are filled with laughter and tears, with music and silence, with triumphs and failures, but most of all, they're filled with love. The love between two friends who knew that they were lucky to have found each other in this big, complicated world. As Willie tells these stories, he's not just sharing memories, he's preserving a legacy. He's making sure that future generations will know that behind all the fame and success, there was a real friendship between two extraordinary men. He's showing the world that the best things in life aren't always the most public ones, and that sometimes the most important stories are the ones that happen when nobody else is watching. The friendship between Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash will always be one of country music's greatest love stories. Not romantic love, but the deep, abiding love between two people who truly understood each other. Their music will live forever, but their friendship will live even longer in the hearts of everyone who believes in the power of genuine human connection. Willie Nelson, at 91, has given us an incredible gift by sharing these intimate memories of Johnny Cash. He's reminded us that legends are just people, and that the most legendary thing about them might not be their fame or their success, but their capacity to love and be loved by the people who matter most. These stories about Johnny Cash, told through Willie's eyes, are more than just entertainment. They're lessons about friendship, about loyalty, about standing by the people you care about even when it's difficult. They're reminders that in a world that can often feel cold and disconnected, genuine friendship is one of the most precious things we can have. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, I want you to do something for me. Hit that like button to show your appreciation for the incredible friendship between Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash. Share this video with someone who believes in the power of true friendship, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we have so many more amazing stories about the legends of country music waiting for you. The legacy of Willie and Johnny's friendship lives on, and by sharing their story, we're keeping that beautiful legacy alive for generations to come.